Why have kids' behavior worsened over time with remote learning? Parents and kids have been through a great deal of turmoil ever since lockdown began, right from having to set up to remote learning environments or ensuring they don't miss out on social isolation and pretty much everything in between at the best of our ability. Parents have tried a great deal to manage their kids' mental health, but how much of a long-term effect on their behavioral health may have gone unnoticed as a result of being in lockdown? Well, there was no way of knowing this up until right now. Harvard University has conducted research over the shifts in behavior with kids, causing them to act out as a result of a transition between in-person and a remote or hybrid learning environment. This may come as no surprise to parents in retrospect that the change in the learning format, which is essentially the notion of how stress and disruption affects a child's behavioral health and functioning in many ways. 405 surveys were conducted by Harvard during this time, with parents reporting an increase in the number of 1. Maladaptive behavior, which is essentially those behaviors that make it quite difficult for you to adjust or adapt to new or changing circumstances, which is quite often faced after a major life change. Number 2, increased aggression or withdrawals. As it turns out, kids who become more withdrawn happen to regress towards younger behaviors. Number 3, dysregulated behaviors, such as poor attention spans or challenges with switching between tasks. Children are known to thrive in a controlled environment where there is clarity and consistency in routines, so naturally, this turbulent environment of switching between learning formats hasn't been the best experience. Now, we cannot just assume that all kids have had a negative behavioral outcome, but for those that have, it is important to understand the impact parents and teachers can have going forward. When children feel safe and supported, it is proven that they find it easier to bounce back and navigate through challenges. This will have a lasting positive impact in the long run. Helping kids take their time to process is highly beneficial, which does not mean leaving them to their own thoughts, but rather making time to understand their thoughts with them. Lastly, as great as it may sound to get back into learning and make up for lost time, or what is labeled as learning loss, we need to empathize with the social and emotional turmoil that kids have been through, which is yet another great scenario of how going slow and steady will definitely help in the long term. Now, to conclude this topic with further clarity, the data identified can somehow be left for interpretation. Some may argue of other factors that have been involved with this particular change, which is fair to acknowledge, but parents from the survey have reported a systematic shift in behavior, having compared their kids' previous behavior as a result of in-person learning versus their current behavior as a result of hybrid or remote learning. If you enjoyed this content, why not consider subscribing and turning on your notification, as our focus is to provide you with a fundamental understanding of topics so you can learn more from home.